Abhishek, as I just mentioned, we are changing a little bit the scene. So we are now in front of the board and we do a little bit of fun activity. Yeah, you mentioned that you're a big fan of traveling. So I thought then why we should not pack together the data suitcase. Yeah.
Very interesting topic. Yeah, of course.
We're on a data river.
Yeah.
Yeah, and our journey is data fantasy land.
Yeah.
Okay. And basically the activity that we are going to do here together is that you see on the right, you see some icons. Yeah. Ideally, some of these icons are inspiring you. Yeah. With some essentials that we need to pack in the suitcase on our data journey to data fantasy land. Yeah. So it's a back and forth. So you can choose one, I can choose one, and we have to give explanations why we would say that we need to take them with us. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So who should go first?
Obviously the guest.
Okay.
The stage is yours.
All right. So what do we have here? I think that's a very interesting slice. I would rather first pick the map.
The map. Okay. The road map.
The road map.
And
At least I should know where I'm going. So yeah,
okay.
that's the first thing to pick from the.
Okay. So you would say in general that would be one of the first steps on any data journey?
Any data journey, because as the name says, it's a journey. So you ought to know where you're going and how you're going. So of course your roadmap is a very key component of your data journey.
Yeah.
It's a very, very important let's say a piece of artifact that every organization must have.
Yeah.
And it will evolve over a period of time. The roadmaps can be changed and can evolve into different things and progress. But a roadmap is a very important first component, I would say.
Okay. When you do your private trips, yeah, who is in charge of the roadmap? You or your wife? You? Okay.
So my spouse generally tells this is what I feel like going and where I like to go.
Yeah.
I break down the itineraries into to smaller components or a roadmap, as we say it.
Yeah.
Where should we take break? Where should we halt? Where do we eat what? And things like that. So everything is planned as per the time slot. And
nice.
So,
nice.
So I'm doing most of the planning management aspect.
Okay.
And get to a destination on time.
Yeah.
So that everybody gets to be happy, especially when it comes to your spouse.
Okay, but you're then also the one who gets blamed if it doesn't work out.
If it doesn't work out, yes, I'm to be blamed, and of course, since I'm sponsoring everything, then the sponsor gets to blame, or the producer gets to blame.
Nice. I can relate to that activity and feeling, of course. So it's now my turn. What I would do is I would go for company. Yeah. So I would like to look who I take with me on the journey that I think is important.
Yeah.
That I have people with me on the trip that I can relate to, that they know also their duties and responsibilities.
Yeah.
So a kind of overview of who needs to be part of the trip. Yeah, or who is chipping in also financially, and would be something that I would take as an essential with me.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's now my turn, I would say. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Well, the other thing that I really think is necessary is if you're sponsoring your data journey, you have to have cash, and that cash needs to be there. Whatever journey, wherever you're going, you need to have enough budget, at least sufficient enough to reach to the destination that they're trying to build a roadmap for.
Yeah.
And that's definitely a very important core component where you would like to go.
Yeah. So on the financial aspect, let me ask you here. I mean, you said you have a roadmap, obviously. So financially spoken, how much of the roadmap do you plan in advance? So are there certain aspects where you say, okay, that needs to be funded, and the mandate needs to contain already this fund, this budget. Yeah. So what would you say? What are aspects along the journey where you say this needs to be clear already right at the beginning of the journey?
Yeah, I think when it comes to the roadmap, when businesses are devising this business strategy,
Yeah.
the business strategy always is not just a piece of paper. It's
Yeah.
definitely is a kind of a vision where you like to achieve something in a short span of time, let's say 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And of course, what would it take for you to reach to that vision is clearly some kind of a rough estimate of this kind of investment that you need. I think this is something that is generally done when you build a business case around those visions, and you allocate some resources and say, okay, I would allocate let's say 1 million or 2 million for next every year or consecutive years for this kind of initiatives. And I will earmark these funds, and then based on what you would try to achieve in that particular year, we will pull out stuff from that fund. But that's definitely needed. So you would still, based on your enterprise business strategy and then further your data strategy, you would know what to invest on in principle when it comes to, let's say, investing on a new platform for reference and master data. Let's say you're rolling out SAP, you want to roll out SAP. You want to invest more on generative AI and machine learning and automation, building new data products. That means hiring new resources. So you allocate, let's say, 2 or 3 millions for these kind of initiatives. When you're running a harmonization exercise within the organization, you have to hire resources, you have to hire things like that. So you get a rough kind of estimate. So 10 people, 20 people build a team of strength. So much into your allocation for platform. So that kind of rough estimate is easily possible. And you would have to earmark those funds in the advance to ensure that you have sufficient fund all the way. Or maybe funds are never sufficient.
Yeah.
it's a oxymoronic word, of course, but let's say you have enough things, a fund to earmark something, and then if you need more, then that's a separate investment application that you can always do to your effort organization. But that's something it's really needed to ensure that we are delivering the most value in the given amount of, let's say, finances that are made available to us, which is how the organizations are also measuring your return on investment. So everything is, how much did I invest in this initiative, and how much do I gain?
Two things that come to my mind if I think about the budget is, if I think about a tool, I think these days what I would immediately consider on my journey is the investment into a data catalog. So yes, there are definitely other tools which are really important, but to ensure that we speak semantically the same language, and that we ensure also that the responsibilities among the different data excellence roles are ensured. If it comes to stewardship and ownership, I think a data catalog is something of really high importance to practically already visualize how people are engaging and what's the benefit out of it, so that you have structured information about the data, the lineage and so on and so on. So if I think about budgeting, I would say a software such a data catalog would be immediately something that I would put in a suitcase and say I have enough for that. The other thing is, and I would like to hear your opinion on that, is if we think about budget, at the beginning, most of the time, we talked also about it. It's about that the companies are at the beginning rather in an immature state, so they need to see the value out of it. Would you say that the central data management, to a certain degree, even has responsibility to financially budget use cases which comes from different BUs or FUs, as a goodwill to say like, okay, we use your use case and we financing it. Would you go to that extent?
Yes, of course. We do that
Okay.
as of date as well. So for every enterprise initiative that comes into existence, for example, let's talk about reference master data, which is, well, let's say, very fundamental core concept, which opens or goes through multiple functional unit barriers as such. And it's more of a horizontal topic. So for these topics, for reference and master data, the initial project spending comes from can be sponsored through central initiative, and then the cost of maintenance, which is the ongoing cost, can be distributed across the different BUs or functional unit based on the usage. The more you use the platform, the more you're being charged. The pay-per-use kind of model can be used to sustain that kind of initiative. But of course, the first, let's say, at the outset, the initial cost of investment can be burdened or can be levied through the central team. If it, of course, it will come out from somewhere. At the end of the day, it's a revenue allocation topic or cost allocation topic, basically. So the potentially, if it comes out from a CTO or CIO budget, that's eventually coming from your IT budget, and that IT budget is eventually somehow being earmarked from the annual turnover sales that you have, the company has, and things like that. So that's that eventually comes out from somewhere, but it can be allocated on central level for such project initiatives.
Okay, next item, it's my turn. So what I would take with me is any documentation, contracts, for rental car, hotel, whatever I need to ensure that I'm not surprised. So with not having booked anything in advance, that are essential. So, and I would, if I relate this now to our data management suitcase, I would say these are certain policies, mandate-wise decisions and contracts, on collaboration and so on that we do with the different stakeholders that we have.
Absolutely. That's an interesting point when it comes to the existing documentation, which is also really, really important artifact that one would have to go through to really to analyze what we have at the moment. So from the perspective of the journey, the data journey, I would say you would also require at the moment the technical capabilities to reach to the destination that you're trying to reach. So from my perspective, a technical capability, I don't know if this is a suitable representation of that, would be your technical architecture, your technical tools or tech stack in general that your organization has or intends to have, that is definitely would support you or let's say in this endeavor or the venture that you're doing to reach to a destination from data standpoint, which is a very important component that you would have to either deploy or buy new.
Definitely. I mean, at the beginning you look what the company has and if it's good enough, and at the moment or at the beginning you would probably work with that. But I also came to the conclusion that if I jump in, too fast with technical solutions, they would not understand. So I like it that they, by themselves realize, okay, our tools have the limitations. So for going further, we need to kind of have some changes in the technical aspects. Definitely. Okay. So what is also key, I think, is while you're on the journey and to keep the mood up, is that you have nice entertainment. So whether it is for the kids that they have some movies to watch or some nice music or whatever. Yeah, I think you need to make sure that the audience is always pleased with the content, with the journey. So you need to keep them alive. Yeah, so it would be, if we speak in data management terms, yeah, you need to have your communication channels in place to advertise your achievements, your experience, the collaboration, different aspects. Yeah,
absolutely. That's a really important topic when it comes to communication. Yeah, so the communication concept often more than not are very ignored topic when it comes to data management roadmaps or data cycle. When you're ongoing in a data journey, it's important that you communicate with your data stakeholders on a regular basis, on periodic level, to constantly engage them into these discussions, of course. Otherwise, it becomes more, or let's say, a siloed initiative. It's a very, very important topic that the communication management is done in a very structured approach periodically. And there is a dedicated, if possible, a team that, or let's say one person who could support you in doing this or laying this out for this. That means not only communication, but also generating training content, generating enough material for people to read through and go through this in a mode of communication that is much more easily understandable.
Yeah, fully agree with you. While you were talking, I had another idea why communication is so key, especially if we talked about federated data governance. So we have country-specific role holders or region-specific role holders. We need also to understand their communication pattern and what they're used to, and make sure that they are also on board. So while we are on the journey and we visit, for example, maybe entities somewhere in the world, we should make sure that they are also part of the communication concept, and that we have along the journey people identified that are capable of speaking to them. So so maybe in our data fantasy land, my wife, for example, she's good in Spanish. I would not try to speak to someone in Spanish, so I would let my wife take over the communication in a country where Spanish is maybe the main language or something.
Absolutely.
So it would be also, again, maybe activities that would make sense to hand over to different data domain or BU role holders.
Absolutely. And maybe one more thing that I think is relevant, which is important when we embark on a data journey, is that you have enough executive backing or executive sponsorship. And I don't know if this is the right picture for this, but an executive sponsorship really empowers you to drive enterprise or horizontal topics, which requires a lot of coordination, driving enterprise mandates, driving and pushing the agenda of business strategy and data strategy down the functional units and things like that. So that requires a level of empowerment. That empowerment comes when you have executive blessings and sponsorship, and they understand and they realize that this is important enough to be considered and make it work, because it supports your business strategy. So I would say the executive sponsorship would include all the C-level executives.
I agree. I think there's also, I mean, like we always talk about, a chief data officer, the importance of a chief data officer, and now we talk about chief analytics officer or AI officer and all of this. All good. They have also valid reasons why they are talked about, why companies should introduce them. But as you said, at the end of the day, it's a shared asset, a shared good. Data, every board member needs to be supporting it. Yes, there can be one maybe, who is really dedicated to the data management as a discipline, but in general, either the entire board is in, or don't start the journey.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So in that sense, I would say, yeah, while you're on the journey, it makes sense to have a cockpit or some KPIs, yeah, to see whether you're on track or not. Yeah. For financially, outcome, did we enjoy the steps? Maybe we want to change something on the journey. Yeah, maybe we want to stay a night longer because we liked it. Yeah, or we want to maybe leave that place earlier because we didn't like it. So yeah, so I think KPIs, yeah, at least some KPIs to visualize the value contribution, the outcome, and also that the financial commitment has been for good, yeah, has their benefits, is something that also needs to be visualized. Yeah.
I like the term KPIs because it's often,
Yeah.
let's say, sometimes misconstrued with different other, let's say, indicators. So
Yeah.
key performance indicators, of course, yes.
Yeah.
But are we saying that if we are meeting a top performance, does it mean that the organization or the journey that the organization is going is meeting its objective? Does it also mean that just because my KPI is 100%, does it mean that I've delivered value? Does it mean that the project is a success?
Yeah.
I think it's the metrics itself has a whole lot of difference when it comes to measuring and defining success. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would say that the organization should really think about how they define success when it comes to data projects.
Yes.
So what do you mean, or what is the definition of success when it comes to the organization?
Yeah.
For some organization, I would measure success based on the value that projects delivers, and the value I generate based on, okay, I reduced some headcounts, I was able to improve my shipment efficiency, and so things like that. So maybe one other approach could be your objective key results, or OKRs as they call it. That OKRs is really driving on a specific objective that you're trying to achieve from your strategy.
Yeah.
And say, based on this objective, what is the key results that you foresee that it will generate? Yeah. So maybe we have to sometimes think about, really, are we really too much stuck on KPIs? And just because I meet the KPI, does it mean that I'm delivering the value?
No, you're completely right. It needs to be closely linked to company objectives and ensure that it is really providing the value to the organization and not just meeting KPIs or some figures in a way. Yeah. No, fully with you. Okay, you want to go one more?
Yeah, of course. Why not? Some interesting icons there. So I would say maybe we have to have something like a compass here.
Okay.
To really measure at every point of time that are we going in the right direction. Yeah. So of course we have a North Star. The compass should always point to the what's the organization's North Star.
Yeah.
Are we heading to the right direction when it comes to going in this data journey?
Yeah.
Maybe reevaluate based on the KPIs or the OKRs, whatever you're achieving. Is it sufficient, or should we change something in the roadmap to or strategy to how you achieved or reached to a roadmap to go to use the right route to reach to a place. So that's something. It's a constant monitoring of, say, are we going in the right direction? Always check after a certain specific milestone.
Yeah.
And that milestone would tell you, oh, we have achieved something, we are going in the right track, are we still achieving this or not?
Yeah. No, makes absolutely sense. Okay, I go for one more. And I would say, at the end of the day, quality. Yeah. So yes, it's a diamond. not because we want to buy jewelry for our wives on the journey always, but I think it makes sense to have quality ensured, yeah, along the journey. I mean, you mentioned it also with the compass and so on, but on the data journey, at the end of the day, we talk about data quality, yeah. So whatever tools and processes and technology or methods we introduce to the company, it comes down to the data quality, yeah. So if that is not on the level that we need it for the processes, capabilities, and so on, yeah, then the entire journey is a little bit to be questioned, yeah.
Yeah. Interesting, how people can have different perception of an icon. Yeah.
Okay.
When I look at this, it gives me an impression. Oh, maybe we should, when we are going on a data journey, we should also focus on what are our crown jewels from data perspective. Yeah.
Yeah.
So from data perspective, these are my crown jewels in the data landscape.
Yeah.
I should target my customer master data. I should target my material management data. I should target my research or R&D data, manufacturing data, and HR master data. So these are my core crown jewels that I should focus on to ensure that they are that there's sufficient policies and process and people there, or 3Ps I call it: policies, process, people, to take care of these crown jewels. Yeah. So
nice. Okay, but still something you would put in.
Of course. It's just that it's a different
interesting. Yeah, that's what I said. I purposely didn't wrote anything next to the icons so that the imagination is leading you to the right one. Okay, so I think we have now 10 items in total. I think that's enough.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we have to buy additional weight for the suitcase, and we want to avoid that. Yeah. I like that. I like what you put in. So reflecting on what we have in here, would you say it makes sense as essentials?
Essentials, yes, of course. I mean, I would say these are some core topics. Yeah. Of course, the other topics of data protection, data security, these are anyway core fundamental components of your data journey. When you're embarking on a new journey, you cannot forego the components of compliance when it comes to data protection, data security. It has to be there, because otherwise you're leaving yourself vulnerable to other outside problems. But broadly, on a broader level, yes, of course, it covers most of the things.
Okay, nice. Yeah, I think it's also a good number of items or capabilities. And what we do next now is we go back to our previous position, and I would like in there to engage with you about one particular topic further, which is now this icon here, and you can see it. It's a little bit, it has to do with intelligence and artificial intelligence. So yeah, let's go over there and continue. But thanks for doing the activity with me.
Thank you. It's very interesting. I love the concept, and it's really induces your brain to think a lot, I would say, creatively. But yeah, it's nice.
Okay, thank you.
Good.
All right, Abhishek, we are back from the journey, back from Data Fantasyland. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah. Absolutely. It was really engaging, I would have to say.
Great that you liked it. So, as I mentioned, I would like now to talk to you more about the importance of data quality in AI. Yeah, I mean, we talked about your experience along the entire data management frameworks or capabilities, let's say that way, and we engage heavily in federated or centralized data governance aspects, but as I mentioned, data quality is at the end most probably the most important topic, because there we can really see if all the efforts are paying out at the end. So, and now we have AI, which is probably the topic, and I liked how you said at the beginning, finance and business units that have to deal more with regulatory requirements and so on, they were the ones that engaged first with data management and so on. I think that's also one of the reasons why so many people, not me, but so many people have the impression data management is boring. Yeah. And now AI is coming along and everyone is dealing with AI, and AI becomes suddenly the so cool trendy topic. Yeah. But at the end, yeah, as the topic is about importance of data quality, yeah, for AI, yeah, what is your take? So what would you say, what's the relationship between data quality and, in that sense, data management if we talk about AI success?
Very, very deep relationship, I would say. I mean, since we touched base on the concept of that's this topic of AI,
Yeah.
it isn't the case that AI then never existed. You know,
Yeah.
we have had artificial or experiments and
Yeah.
you know, research and a lot of things that are ongoing on AI related stuff. So
Yeah.
there's a bigger umbrella of AI. There's a deep AI. There's a machine learning model. There's business intelligence and things like that. Um, um, I think what was a game changer, especially when it comes to artificial intelligence, I think IBM worked on Watson and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
We started with deep computing, quantum computing and things like that. Was really when it started opening to the world in a more product-centric approach. Yeah. So Sam Altman came in and he really market AI in form of a product itself, which is available for retail consumers, to be specific, for consumption, and especially large language models, the LLMs as they call it, was really a game changer, which nobody has ever imagined that something like Google can be replaced eventually through by one of these large language models, you know. And it is Google is now facing the threat, and which is why they have invested money and effort in their own AI technologies, LLMs specifically like BART. Now, I think we have to understand that there are, let's say, there are a lot of benefits, but there are certain drawbacks, I guess, or let's say not drawbacks, but rather limitations to LLMs, and how you're training them. Basically, what's the data set that you're using to train them? What is the task that you're trying to assign it? Yeah. So of course, at the end of the day, it gets trained on certain specific data set, and the training happens over a period of time. It improves. Until then, it's bound to maybe give you inaccurate results sometimes, or hallucinate sometimes, and has timeout for certain technical reasons. So these are things that you would have to account for when you're trying to employ. But I guess the data scientist or the data science team community already knows this, who are using or employing this. So typically, when it comes to the data quality or managing or improving data quality, it has a lot to do with what components of quality can it have an impact on. Yeah. So from AI perspective, your data, let's say, deduplication is a very important aspect that the AI or generative AI can do. You know, and that at the moment is heavily relied on to partially manual and partially some machine learning algorithm that does deduplication activity. But now you have a lot of products in the market which are also employing LLMs in their deduplication algorithm as well. But what the organizations can also do is they can employ these LLMs to their own advantage, train them in various parameters that are being used to deduplicate it, train them on different types of cases that are being currently being processed by your human reviewer or human data steward who is reviewing these cases, and try to make it more accurate. Yeah. In our experience, we have observed a very strong accuracy of these, let's say, predicted reliability of these LLMs.
Yeah.
In terms of assessing these different scenarios and cases for deduplication, for reviews and things like that. So for the most part, LLMs have phenomenally been able to categorize or identify natural persons in your records, being able to deduplicate your records, being able to review cases in your records, and flag them accordingly for further exceptional reviews and things like that. That means it has a direct impact on your overall quality.
Yeah.
Because you're reducing redundancies in your database.
Yeah.
And it will also automatically merge these cases as soon as it finds it. So the response is quite quick, as opposed to a very experienced human reviewer.
Yeah.
And if you're able to deploy these in your organizations, you have a direct cost saving that you would see, because you're cutting down on your reviewing cost and shared service centers and things like that. So that's definitely a very, very impactful thing that we observe.
Yeah.
The other thing that they have a direct impact on is, let's say, doing further analytics in terms of, once you have the data available from reference master data perspective, you can also do further classification, segmentation, groupings based on certain predefined rules of how you would like to cluster your customers and so on and so forth. And that, I think it's a very, very very advanced topics that we are relying on for LLMs. But of course, yeah, you cannot completely get rid of human reviewer part. Of course, there would be still cases, but I would say it will still be, compared to the current version, it will be still minority in
Okay.
So the component of review would be severely reduced down, and it will be very, very exceptional cases which have to be reviewed by some expert somewhere sitting. And overall, it will have a drastic impact on eliminating your reviewer time or reviewer task and mundane processes in general. So you could rather consider this also to similar extent a better version of your robotic process automation that basically used to make the task of some person or some user or SSC in this case. But this one is more of a advanced intelligence which is taking decisions on behalf of the user and automatically executing something on or deciding something based on that. And that is a very very interesting concept that has now come into data management specifically.
Yeah, again, a lot of interesting thoughts and insights you're giving to us. And what I would like to take out as a first highlight is, and I think it's pretty much aligned with what Bernhard Marr, he wrote an article for Forbes where he mentions that poor data quality can lead to AI failure. And I think your example with deduplication is already, it sounds so, in a way, it sounds like a really simple use case, but it is really one that has a lot of complexity and also a high impact on the business, especially in an industry like Kühne und Nagel, where you're dealing with quite a lot of business partner data across the world throughout different business units and functional units. So if we consider the statement, poor data quality can lead to AI failure, would you say that there are at the moment a lot of pitfalls if it comes to AI because data quality is not understood or not rightly engaged with?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is where the limitation concept comes into picture. I mean, the AI, it trains itself, but the training also depends upon what kind of data are you using to train it. if you're training the AI on a sample which is which considers all possible scenarios, if you're really guiding the AI through all the pitfalls that you see in the data, the cases that should be reviewed and things like that, and you're prompting this in a way that it is identifying those, then I think it will do what you anticipate it to do. And this is where the concept of prompt engineering is so very much relevant, that and I think prompt engineering is something that will evolve into a field of its own in future, I would say, or maybe now itself, because now we will no longer have, let's say, BI or let's say a data scientist. Maybe a specific field will be only something like a prompt engineer, you know, because you have these different LLMs already, you know. It's about how do you train them with writing down the appropriate prompt, and then train them, you know, and anticipate or expect this to behave in a specific way. So it has a lot to do also with the sample that you train on, what kind of prompt you're using to expect a targeted output, and things like that. So I would say yes. Of course, it does matter a lot that you have to have a good quality data, and in order to have that good quality data, you have to have some fundamentals addressed, which at the data creation layer, and your AI will be able to support you at the end layer where your data is already created, has to be deduplicated, has to be reviewed, and things like that. So there's a two components which is already involved. So data creation layer, or data sourcing layer, and data consumption layer, I would say.
Yeah. So most common data quality issues, what have you encountered there? I mean, at AI projects at the moment, do you have examples for us? What could be their data quality issues, that people should be aware of if they start AI?
Yeah,
projects?
Of course. I think the one of the common quality issues that, like I said, the data redundancy itself per se. Okay. So you're creating redundant records constantly in your master data application. Either it is you're basically the business demands it, or the model is not capable enough to handle these, or model is completely archaic. I mean, you have to work on a new data model altogether because your business has changed, and you're forcing redundant data because the data model is not sufficient to handle these. Secondly is the input error. Completely garbage input is being entered into the user fields. For example, you have a business partner name, and you enter phone numbers there, or your purchase order contract numbers there. You enter address information. Instead of that, you enter geo coordinates, or you enter street. So these are misuse of the fields, and maybe to a certain extent AI can support in these areas, where how you identify whether the right information is being entered in the field. To a certain extent, basic validations can be built to say, okay, the name has to be always numeric. Alphabetical. But only in case of Latin languages. What happens if you're non-Latin business partner names? And then every country has a different address templates. So how would you ensure that for US you have county, and for other you don't have a county? How would you ensure that you have a plot number in UK and you don't have plot numbers? Or how would you ensure you have postal codes in certain countries, you don't have postal codes in certain countries? So you always have to have certain validations which would work, but certain things, when it comes to free text itself, it's very difficult to control through validation by itself. And you need a support from AI there. I think the AI could really help, because the misuse of field, for example, you're using a warehouse location, but you're entering warehouse name or care of locations in the business partner name itself. That itself can be flagged by AI and immediately should be stopped, you know.
Well, I mean, I fully agree with you what you're saying. Yeah, and I mean the examples you're just giving, yeah, with misuse of fields, and I mean everyone that is listening to us right now would think like these are no-brainers. Yeah, that you do not type an address code maybe in a name field and so on. But the reality is this happens, and it happens quite often.
Yeah.
The other day I had a meeting with a chief data officer, and he was really surprised by the amount of misused fields, you know, of their ERP system. And I was sitting there and I was like, I was not impressed or surprised by his statement. And he asked me like, it seems like you're not surprised by that. I said like, no, to be honest. I mean, you are top management. Maybe for you, this comes with surprise. But that's the reality of many, many companies. You like to talk about all these new business, data-driven business models, services, and products. But the reality at your company might be completely different if it comes to supporting these ideas. Yeah. So, I mean, would you agree that, again, expectation and reality is also an issue if it comes to common pitfalls of AI initiatives?
Yeah, I mean, the expectation from, I mean, for the non-technical users, the expectation is, I just keep on entering garbage and somebody's there to clean it up. I guess that was the erstwhile understanding, expectation from IT, as the business had no responsibility. So I think it has to have a, so AI, what it does, it allows you to take more risks when it comes to data management. So you can you have more freedom to take risk and say, okay, maybe I don't care too much about how or where the data is entered, or maybe I don't care too much if the systems are creating redundant data. I can handle this at some point of time with my AI without having to hire more human reviewers or human resources, because there's a machine that's doing this automatically. But that does not absolve you from a data creator ownership. So if you're a system, or you're a data producer, and your job is to create data, or let's say you create data because that's your day-to-day operations, you have the inherent responsibility to provide the right data in the right field. So that should never ever absolve you of your responsibility just because you have an AI model doing something for you. So that's definitely a component of governance and control, and that has to keep on. So I do understand that's it's being done by most organizations. Most organization does this. And sometimes there is a business reason why there are redundancies created, or sometimes there are human decisions or reasons why there are redundancies created. A human reason could be a person who is super overloaded due to manpower resource cut, and he's doing this day in, day out. Very mundane task, sometimes changes things and sometimes overlook things. Human error. Second thing could be the time constraint is really, really high, and the person doesn't even have time to look up and whether there's an existing record or not, and he just enters the data and clicks a hits button, thereby creating a redundant record. He doesn't care. At the end of the day, what he needs is something as an ID to identify that business partner or customer, and then his job is done. He doesn't care if there's a redundant record. So for those scenarios, I guess we can still have a fallback option as an AI, which is taking care of these things at the end of the creation of records to ensure that the system is clean, sanctity is maintained as far as possible, and review is being done. But like I said, it does not absolve you as a data producer from your responsibility of creating right data.
Nicely put out here. And I again fully agree with what you're saying. At the end of the day, it needs also awareness and education, understanding of the data creator as well as data consumer, how the data is created and how it's supposed to be used also. Yeah. So these two, I mean, they're not, I would say, really roles, but they're very generic terms in a way, but they represent at the end two angles that needs to be more aware of each other. Another question exactly to this aspect here is there's a book by Provost and Fafset. It's Data Science for Business. It's the name, and they say basically, putting it in my terms, is they say data analytical thinking. Yeah, it's something that needs to be more fostered within organizations. And now we just talked about data consumers, data producer, and I mean, again, if we have now country specific or region specific data creator, data maintainer, yeah, and they misuse fields and so on, yeah, and if I think now about this aspect of data analytical thinking again, what does it mean in the points of education and data literacy in a global organized organization which has specific country specific entities that are creating and maintaining data, yeah, and in how much effort does it take again from a central data management team to address these issues, yeah, in the context now of we need to provide more data quality for analytic AI based solutions, yeah.
I think it all comes down to, again, to the topic that the term that you use, data literacy. It's an interesting term because that encompasses a lot of things when it comes to what does it mean make sense to become a data literate person. What does that imbibe? Does it mean that you just know how to enter data? I guess not, right? So that's your job. That's basically a person's job or data producer's job to ensure the right data is being entered in the application, and that he does, and he gets paid to do so, very rightly so. But when it comes to become data literate, you really need to know what is the impact of this. How does it impact you? Forget about you as an organization itself. If you're creating a bad data, it has direct business impact. It has financial impact. It could have legal impact, and technical. I needless to say, I think the technical could be last as well, because all these three are good enough for not to do this. So sufficiently crucial. So I think from literacy perspective, you need to know the data curation. How does it have an impact? In principle, if you're entering bad quality of data, and why this is important. So just to ensure that you as a data producer needs to adhere to the principles or standards that is expected out of you. And it is now the responsibility of the different data offices that are there in the organization, whether it's on region or country level, to ensure that this is somehow imbibed in the training or training content that goes out for your data stewards or data producers who sits and curates data day in, day out, are made aware that this is the potential impact of what you do from data literacy standpoint. Here are some of the data quality matrices or monitoring mechanism, and we would be able to measure this. So if we see that there are constantly bad quality of data being entered from you, the KPIs would go drop. I mean, it has an impact. So you should be then responsible for making sure that those KPIs are better up. If not, then you're responsible for bad quality of data, and that responsibility then being handed over to them, I guess. And that needs to be trained, and that's to be published and constantly monitored as well by the data office teams, whether it's regional or central level.
Yeah, what I think is, I mean, we talked about setting up data governance in general and making yourself aware of the circumstances of the company, the culture of the company, the maturity, the data maturity of the company, and so on. So for me now, the question is, okay, this is already tough and this already takes a lot of time to have there a foundation in place, yeah, so that, let's say, a hybrid governance model is self-efficiently working without too much interfering of a central data governance team. Yeah. And now AI comes in the picture, and the demands, the objectives are increasing. So what I want to ask you now is AI now a blessing for data quality management initiatives, or is it even a curse? Because, yeah, if we talk about level of maturity, level of understanding, level of, governance that needs to be in place, what is it for you?
Yeah, I mean, for me as a data management practitioner, I would always have see this from pros and cons perspective, or the yin and yang. So obviously there's a positive and there's a negative component to it. The positive is definitely it brings a speed, accuracy that is phenomenal, and that can't be compared to obviously to people or person, and that has a genuine advantage when it comes to cost and time to market, efficiency, being more efficient within the organization, and things like that. So there's a lot of things that it brings to. But like I say, it should not absolve you of your responsibility as a good, let's say, as a good data steward, or let's say data producer in this case. So you still have, until we are doing everything automated, and I don't know whether that future is very, very near, where Terminator movie where machines are ruling the world. Of course, until then, we still are reliant on human intelligence. So take an example of, let's say, self-driving cars. You still have a lot of AI component embedded in your cars and things like that. But of course, it is not fully implemented yet because there's some inherent limitations. A human brain can still perceive danger and take decisions on certain very ambiguous places, where AI or a self-driving car may not, or may get stick. I mean, I drive a car which has a adaptive cruise control and level 2 autonomy, but still I have to put my hands on the steering and put my feet on the brakes sometimes, and because the car doesn't know where to change or where to stop sometimes, so it redirects you to the wrong direction. So here I would say the responsibility is still with the driver. You cannot blame the company or the automobile company here to say, okay, no, this is it's supposed to be AI. And I thought it should do its work, and it's not doing its work. But no, that's just would be further, let's say, careless, I would say, in terms of responsibility. So I would say the good part is it is more efficient. It can do things for you, and you don't have to spend too much human resource or valuable human resource there. But the con part is it sometimes have a tendency that the business expectation is that, oh, I can enter whatever I want. It doesn't matter. Let AI handle it. So that the data governance team or the CDO in this case has to ensure that this is not undermine. It does not undermine the human component of data management.
Yeah.
The human component is very, very valuable.
Yeah.
It has to ensure that the data is correctly handled. Wherever there's human touch points, it has to be handled correctly and entered correctly as far as possible, and then use AI as just an something to advance your capabilities, something as enabler, and to support your business process. But it's not the end goal.
I agree with you. I mean, yin and yang is probably a good example, or a good phrase to use here, as you said, because it has its pros and cons in a certain level. At the end of the day, you need to be aware of that. And to use obviously the advantages and mitigate the potential risk that comes along with it.
Absolutely.
And I think you also gave good examples of AI data-driven data quality capabilities, such as deduplication and data cleansing. Where AI can speed up processes, but still there might be a human factor needed to really then decide, okay, do we delete now these data sets or not? And which one is the golden record? And which one not? So it's probably a shift in not only mindset, but also in duty of data management roles. And where do you see further developments? I mean, where AI can support data quality management? Is there something where you at the moment, based also on the projects that you're dealing with, AI projects that you're dealing with, you would wish, oh man, would be great if AI could support here or do this already? Is there something, or where you say, well, their AI capabilities would be of use?
I think AI is really good at working on predefined, let's say, tasks which are rule-based or things like that, so which you can train on. AI is really good at. I guess where we are still working on is really the topic of data integration. We are still reliant on the concepts of, let's say, should we have a federated reference and master data, or should we have a centralized reference master data? Should we use a data mesh? Should we do data virtualization? Should we use data warehouse? Should we have data lake? And I think if AI can help in that, as to how to ensure that we have standardized data contracts across, and we are able to plug and play very easily. That would be really, really good, so that you don't have to invest a lot of time and effort in establishing this data pipeline. At the moment, it is still an effort to integrate and make sure that the consumer applications have same data contracts with you. They are subscribing and receiving messages or listening to your notifications. They are in sync when it comes to the records itself, the master data records. Any changes are being published bidirectionally, and then that's something that we are still experiencing challenges there. And I would say the other thing that generative AI can do is to really, the concept that I've generally seen in data lakes is that you really partition your data into different levels and say, okay, maybe this is my level 0 data. I don't care too much whether I don't need to be so much stringent. And here AI can do only few things, and this is okay. My level 2 data, level 1 data, I have to be a bit more stringent. I have to have more responsibilities from data producer, creators, and then more stringent rules when it comes to data quality and support from AI. Level 2 is highly stringent, and there I need a very high quality of data from input and very high quality of AI. Yeah. So these kind of compartmentalization or partitioning, I think this is something where AI can help a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So these are the two use cases which I see where I foresee that AI would be of really great help in future. Maybe.
Yeah.
Once we're there.
Once we're there.
Yeah.
All right, Abhishek. We come to the end. Yeah. I think, it was great talking to you. I think there were a lot of insightful information, experience you shared with us. So first of all, thank you for that.
Pleasure.
Yeah. To take a moment now to recap the heavy topics we discussed here today, what would you give the audience as key takeaways about centralized, decentralized, or federated data governance, and also if we think about now the data quality consideration if it comes to AI topics? Yeah.
If you're a data practitioner, or somebody who's into data management activity, I guess the key focus topic for you should be in the upcoming days or months, definitely AI. And depending on what maturity level that you're in at the stage, I think it is something that seriously should be looked into because it has far more value generation when it comes to and cost impact as opposed to anything else that we have seen thus far. So if you don't have an AI policy, you should also think about having one.
Yeah.
And because it helps to see what should be your standard guidelines around using AI within your organization.
Yeah.
And of course, it set up that parameter. And then you should also, if you have a dedicated role for AI in your data science team, set those up, if not already, and have these dedicated teams looked into those value generation based use cases, or data use cases where you see, okay, these are inherent cases where I see AI could solve this problem, and completely get rid of human reviewing part or human interaction part, and a better analytics altogether. And in order to support this, the data management team has to also consistently focus also on addressing the fundamentals. So the fundamentals still remain your human reviewing, human responsibilities, which is data owner, data stewardship responsibilities, making sure you have a proper governance framework set up. So all this would work if you have a fundamental quite defined. So which is why I would say continue doing what you're doing in terms of implementation of your fundamentals, but start looking into the concepts of AI as early as possible within your organization, because it's never too late. And the earlier you start, the better it is, because I think the value generation potential is quite impactful. It's a bit quicker as opposed to implementing a big application, transforming organization to the way it works. Because here using AI, you can generate some quick insights, quick values, and produce some data products which are much more helpful for the organization. All your data products should have something if it can advantage or leverage AI, it would be really good if you can. If it is not just for the sake of having it, but if you can, that would be really helpful.
Thanks a lot, Abhishek. I think if I have to recap today's session, I first of all want to thank you, and I think your journey is really impressive and gives us great insights, and your journey from I would say, like really doing, as I said at the beginning, walking the talk, yeah, and then being exposed to so many facets, not only of data management, analytics management, and AI, yeah, is really impressive. And what you shared with us today is highlighting exactly that level of deep understanding that you have. And I think what was clear to me today is that because if I look also into LinkedIn posts and what key speakers are talking about, you have a little bit of two sides at the moment. Yeah, you have these, you want to do AI, please do first your homework and fix your data management or your data quality management. Yeah. So they kind of completely distance themselves from AI topics. Yeah. And then you have the opponents which say like, data management, leave me alone with this legacy world topic. It's too complex. It's supposed to fail. Yeah, there's no value coming really out of it. It's not worth the effort and so on. And let's engage really in AI topics and so on. So, not saying that any of these side is more important than the other. Yeah, but I think what you today highlighted as well is immediately engage in both.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you work, as you said, you just mentioned it, you said policies. If you don't have an AI policy, then engage in an AI policy. Yeah. The EU, we didn't talk about that, but the EU, for example, comes up with regulation, AI charter and so on. Yeah. So they expect you also to engage with that topic and so on. Yeah. So, but do it with your central data management team together.
Yeah.
Yeah. So don't artificially distance these two topics from each other. They belong in a way to each other, and it's better to create the awareness also for the entire journey that it's better to go hand in hand in a way than let them do their job and them do their job, and sooner or later they realize, I need you and I need you, but I have set it up differently than what you're saying and so on. Yeah. So to avoid at the end these conflicts that will arise. Yeah. And you also mentioned that with the setup of whether central data management or federated data governance, sooner or later, regardless where you start, your level of maturity brings you closer to each other.
Absolutely.
And the same applies to data quality management or data management and AI topics. The level of maturity sooner or later makes you realize you need each other.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Can't disagree. I mean, it's a symbiotic relationship, I would say, and the synergies are already there. So one has to be there as well. Depends on the other. But I mean, I would say it's never too late. And the world is changing very fast. Whether you like it or not, AI is here. It is here very, very in your day-to-day life. It's now being, let's say, almost, it will become nothing that you cannot live without now going forward, because it's so much been, it's now very product centric. It is coming into every products. So you might as well make sure that if your organization is up to the speed when it comes to AI and how to leverage it, there's a dedicated data team who's looking into data backlogs of AI use cases that needs to address with a business case and a monetary value that can be assigned benefit wise. So organizations have to look seriously into this. Otherwise the chances are that you're far way behind and obsolete when it comes to competitive advantage, because most of the organizations, the big organizations, are already looking into this.
I think one other key aspect, and a call to action to our listeners and viewers, is reach out to others. I mean, you mentioned that we discussed it at the beginning. You engage in conferences, you engage on blogs and articles, and you do that also. A strong drive behind it is to be exposed to other ideas, to double check I'm on the right track and so on. So to our viewers and listeners, reach out to Abhishek, who is willing to share his experience as we saw today. Reach out to us. Yeah, leave comments, questions below the video or LinkedIn. We definitely will share your LinkedIn profile on the platforms, and yeah, happy to see what they will send us back on comments and questions. And once again, Abhishek, thanks a lot for your very insightful insights, and they're very valuable. I think they were also good to hear from me myself, and learned a few new things from you today. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for inviting, and thanks to the audience who's watching this podcast again. Thanks you. I really like this way of interaction, and like I said, it's been a while since I've been doing this.
Yeah.
But I really like the setup, and I always also encourage your viewers to subscribe and also see this more, the content, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I'm quite certain it will be a huge success.
Thank you, Abhishek. Yeah. Thank you. I leave 2 comments now. One is a question to you. The first comment is, based on our activity, the data suitcase, I think we have a lot of common ground. So you would be definitely someone that I would take with me on a journey to data fantasy land.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, we started the episode with an analogy to a river.
Yeah.
Yeah. And giving a fun fact about a river. And we we close always a session also with the guest having this again, the possibility to create an analogy between data and a river. Yeah. So what comes to your mind?
Yeah. As the famous Bruce Lee once used to say, be like water, my friend. Water gets molded, it flows.
Yeah.
And I think when it comes to data, I feel the same kind of vibe, because you data is flows everywhere.
Yeah.
Data takes shape or form where it resides, and it has to be looked after. Yeah, it's a very, very basic, fundamental let's say construct of life now, and it's very difficult to be a successful organization if you ignore data, because it's the source of life, just like water.
Great, thank you. What else is left to say if Bruce Lee has been quoted? So thank you to everyone watching and listening. Thank you again, Abhishek. It was a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much for inviting. Take care.
Take care. All right.